burning in your spirit, welling deep inside. You got a beast inside. I know it's hard to tame it, it's harder to explain it. Can't even get a picture, no matter how you frame it. There's so much pressure with all these external stresses, and they try to touch you. Gotta push them through the feeling, even though your mind is reeling. The power's deep inside and leads you if you were willing. Got the power. Can you feel the power? This is the hour to release your power. Got the power. Can you feel the power? This is the hour to release your power. Got the power. Can you feel the power? This is the hour to release your power. Got the power. Can you feel the power? This is the hour to release your power.
Welcome into another episode of the Power Shut Up podcast. And for those who don't understand how we are dedicated to this, it's really early in the morning in Washington, D.C., because our guest is over in India and we wanted to make sure that she had a space here. So I am up early in the morning so I can make sure, because I know she's a busy woman. But before we get started, I wanted to just say welcome to season 3. You all know that we've been doing this for a little while, and actually our guest that's here with us today actually has been with us on another platform I had called Luncheon with Lisa. So we're excited to welcome her to the Power Shut Up. And we're going to talk about education and parenting. And this is a global conversation. So I wanted to first say happy birthday to anyone who is celebrating a birthday today or this month. Happy birthday. And I also wanted to say happy anniversary to those who are celebrating a little love. I always love to celebrate love. Also wanted to send up prayers to those who are going through some difficult times. We all know that there's things going on that people are struggling with. So I wanted to make sure that you all know you're not forgotten. You're not alone. I myself have been going through some things this year in the areas that we're going to be talking about. So it's a time for us to just pray for one another. So thank you for tuning in. And I think this will be a great conversation. But before we go into the conversation, I wanted to actually introduce you to our guest. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. And please, Dr. Shauli, let me know if I said something, pronounced it wrong, and pronounce your last name for me.
Yeah, it's Mukherjee.
Mukherjee.
Yeah.
Okay, if I mess it up, please forgive me. I'll just get her to say it so y'all know, because I don't like to mess up names. Believe it or not, people mess up my maiden name, which is Dove, which seems very easy to say, but sometimes it gets messed up. But I wanted to welcome our guest, Professor Dr. Shauli Mukherjee. Okay, and she is a passionate academician, global thought leader, and internationally acclaimed inspirational speaker with more than 22 years of experience in the education space. She has been awarded as India's top 50 women leaders in the education industry and top 20 revolutionary education leaders, as well as among 99 women achievers of India for the year 2021. She has been listed among the top 50 most courageous women in business, leadership, and entertainment in 2022. She has been the founder principal of, is it Adamas?
Yes, it is.
Adamas World School, and for the first STEM school. We might have to touch on that STEM. I love that. School of West Bengal, which was awarded as the second best international day school in West Bengal by Education World under the inspiring leadership of Professor Mukherjee. Has also held senior academic and administrative positions in some of the reputed institutions of West Bengal. Professor has 60 plus publications in Scopus indexed in other international journals, along with patents, copyrights, educational psychological skills, authored and edited books to her credit. She has been featured in 50 plus national and international journals, newspapers, and magazines, including cover features. The convener of 250 plus national and international conferences, FDPs, seminars, workshops, and has 300 plus invited talks, special lectures as a resource person, keynote speaker, conference sessions. She's been a busy lady, y'all. Conference session chair, guest of honor, and chief guest in national and international conferences, seminars, FDPs, and summits to her credit. She has represented her current university in international summits, conclaves, conferences, and pavilion in UK, USA, Canada, Egypt, Kenya, Ivory Coast, South Africa, Vietnam, UAE, Philippines, Malaysia, Nepal, and I think this Bhutan.
Yes.
Okay. As an international acclaimed inspirational speaker, she is regularly invited to numerous national and international conferences, universities, and conclaves to share her insights on futuristic and transformative role in education. She's associated with her premier educational organizations across India as well as globally in senior advisory capacity. She has been a recipient of 100 plus prestigious awards, including Gem of India Award, National Education Leadership Award, one of Partia, what is it, GYAN, Ratna?
I cannot hear you, Lisa.
It's the BHARTIYA.
Yeah, it's Bharat. It's Bharat.
Okay. You say it much better than I do. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's Bharat. It's India.
Yeah. And the World Peace Award. She is currently working as professor and dean, School of Education, and dean, International Relations at Adamas University in India. We want to welcome you because you all, based on what I just shared with you all, you know she's very busy. So we absolutely thank you for your yes to come join us for a little bit of time to share what's going on in your world. And we're going to talk about education and parenting. So welcome to the Power Shut Up podcast.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's absolutely a pleasure to be here on this platform again. And thanks so much for having me here.
Absolutely. That was an easy button for me. I'm glad to have you back because I think education is something that we could talk about any day, all day. And I wanted to know, I know it's been a while since we talked, but because education has been a hot topic, especially in 2025, I know here, I wanted to kind of pull you in and see what kind of things have been happening since we last talked about education. And I think we did tap into parenting as far as the roles that parents play in educating their kids and some of the differences here versus in India. But share with us a little bit about what's going on with you, because I'm not sure if you were the dean back when we talked the last time.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. It was not so. Yes, currently I'm the Dean of School of Education and Dean International Relations for Adamas University, where I'm largely responsible for facilitating international collaborations and linkages related to faculty, student mobility, research collaborations, student study abroad, and all these kind of allied programs for the university. So I had been instrumental in facilitating around 70 plus memorandum of understanding between our university and international universities across 43 nations in my present capacity. So yes, quite exciting times because post pandemic, I think it has opened wider avenues for all of us to come together, to collaborate, to share, and to exchange our ideas in a much, much meaningful and productive way.
I love that. And I remember our conversation talking about, I think some of it was talking about cumulative tests and things like that that go into deciding about, children's education. And have you been doing some work in that area? And have there been any changes or any growth in certain areas that you've noticed?
So, yeah, of course, there has been a lot of developments, I would say, because education is something which I think keeps on changing, uh, in magical ways,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yet, I would also like to say that our histories have changed, our geographies have changed. But when we speak about the speed of change in terms of, education, I think perhaps education is the last thing that changes, because uh, it is not the change that happens in sporadic manner somewhere and somewhere not, but it is something which happens here.
Yeah.
So it's a mindset shift. When I say it's a mindset shift, it is a mindset shift for the parents. It's a mindset shift for the educators. It's the mindset shift for all the essential stakeholders and for the society at large. So I'm sure you would agree that a lot of changes can take place superfluously, but when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to a mindset shift, that is a kind of a shift which takes a lot time. And education is actually related to a mindset shift. So, uh, well, things are on the positive track. I
Mm-hmm.
can I can tell you that, but the way in which it should have changed has not yet happened.
Okay, so let's talk about that, and go a little deeper with some of the things that you think really we need to dive into and check. I know with parenting, I think that's an ongoing thing as well, because education shifts so much. Parents have to shift too, and sometimes we're out of touch, especially if you've had children who were younger and now they're older, and then you have more younger children. You got to get back into the swing of things to know how they're doing things differently now. So, what are some of the things that you think we still need some work with?
A lot of changes in the parenting dynamics, I think, because uh, we always say that the educators as well as the parents, they have to work hand in hand, right?
Mhm.
But what we have to understand is that the parents are the first educators of a child. So the first education that the child receives is actually from the home and from the parents and from the immediate neighborhood before the child actually goes to the school. And when the child goes to the school, uh, things cannot be done, everything cannot be done by the school or
Mhm.
by the teachers unless the parents are in complete sync with what is happening. Now, a kind of a gap that I have often seen, and I think this really needs a kind of an intervention, serious intervention, is that when a child enters the school, it's a kind of a black box, so the parent doesn't know what is happening
Mhm.
there. So there is a kind of a lack of, I would say, communication, proper communication. I don't know for what, maybe for some essential insecurities that are there, very much ingrained in the system. So I think that needs to be bridged.
Okay.
And we have to understand that education is not formal education that happens in the schools. It's all kinds of education, formal, informal, club together. So only when both educators and the parents will come together can the education of a child be meaningful and productive and in the true sense possible.
Well, and I like the fact that you talked about that, all education, which is very important, that all education is definitely not formal. And I think sometimes, as parents, as educators, we forget that there's a bridge there that has to be met. So, if you just go all formal, there are going to be some things that are missed, because it's true, education is not always so formal. And a lot of things that you pick up on as, well, I would say students or kids, we're informally picking it up before we ever touch anything that's very formal. And do you think that the parents are hesitant in bridging that gap with educators because they don't know the changes, and so they're kind of intimidated. Because it's kind of like sometimes when parents come into the situation, they feel like that they're actually the student, and the student may know even more than they do. That can be intimidating sometimes. But what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts and my take on this is a little bit different, because I think that see, in almost every countries, when uh, would want to become a teacher, or you would like to embrace the profession of teaching,
Mm-hmm.
you would definitely undergo some kind of training and certifications, right? But unfortunately, there are no parenting manuals as such, and there are no certification courses for the parents. So it is a given that once you are married, and then you will be get children, and you will be having children, and then you will become parent. I mean, today I'm not a parent, then very next day I will become a parent. So it's like almost in a span of 24 hours, my entire identity changes and shifts. But nothing actually shifts in my mindset, and
Right.
nobody can actually. I mean, there is no place where I can actually go as a new parent to learn the art of parenting or the science of parenting, if I may say so. And I think more than a manual, what I believe is that consciousness is something which is very important. So we speak about conscious parenting,
Okay.
which says that uh, you are actually not raising a child. When you have a child, the child is actually raising you. So,
Okay.
and each and every time there is a kind of a parent-child dynamics happening, each and every moment of that is actually a potential learning opportunity for the parents to revisit and to rethink and to rework on themselves more. So it's very less about the child and it's more about yourself. And it has got a lot of things to do with our own awareness and our own consciousness. And if I say the same thing about the parents, I'll say the same thing about the teachers as well. So the
Mm-hmm.
teachers will come with specific training certifications. Uh, it can be short term, it can be long term. In some of the countries, advanced countries, there are 2 years, 3 years, 4 years of degrees that you need to earn before you actually step into the profession of a teacher. But uh, that will actually teach you the skills of teaching. But what about your consciousness? Because a teacher is in touch with the child in a way in which no other person will be in touch apart from the parents. So your consciousness has to be absolutely in the proper place when you are dealing with a life and
Yes.
when you're impacting that life, because it is less about what you are teaching as a subject to the child, and it's more about the kind of an impact that you are creating by just being with the child, by just being near the child, just by your presence, just by your conscious self. So I think, be it teachers or parents, I think we need to work really, really hard on ourselves. And as I always say, even as a mental health advocate, I always keep on saying this, that you can never heal another person or another life unless you
Hmm.
are healed yourself. So it goes the same with parenting and teaching, I think. So a lot of work needs to be done on ourselves. The serious work needs to be done, and that often doesn't happen, Lisa. To be very true and very honest, because you can work on some outside assignment or any kind of work that has been given to you by somebody else, but
Mm-hmm.
when you start working on yourself, you are actually in touch with your raw self, and that is so very difficult and so uncomfortable to deal with, and
I
often people
absolutely agree with
work
that.
on that.
Yeah, well, and I agree with that across the board. That that's probably one of the scariest things for a lot of people, um, because once you become self aware, then that automatically means that you got work to do. And that's where people get nervous. And it comes with parenting, it comes with interacting with other people on the job. So I absolutely agree. And I love the concept of consciousness, because I do agree that before you enter into any kind of teaching space or mentoring or whatever it is, if you're not in a space where you can be open to not only share but receive, it can hinder what's about to happen, and it can affect, I think about it can affect things, because I think about my relationships with my teachers as a young child and how powerful they were. And I still have those relationships as of today, and I am almost 60 years old. But I remember those relationships because it was a combination of parenting, friendship, teaching, all of that wrapped into one. So it kind of, when you were talking, I was thinking about how powerful, and I think this is what's missed probably across the board, how powerful a teacher really is. And we don't give them enough credit because they have to put everything together. They have to work with almost every capacity of a child's life in order to keep the balance. You got to work with the parents, you got to work with other teachers, you got to make sure that they're open and those kind of things. So dealing with the consciousness of the parent is a wonderful thing. But what kind of struggles do you see in that area when you share this concept? Are people open to it, or are they don't know how to maneuver through that? What are your
No,
thoughts?
I have seen people being very open to it. There's a
Mm-hmm.
very positive side to it. In fact, in my present capacity, I deal with young budding would-be teachers who
Okay.
come to us in order to be trained to become teachers. So they are, young adults, and they have a passion, they have an
Mm-hmm.
aspiration to touch lives by entering into the profession of teaching. And I often tell them that it's not about the skills that you will be learning, it's not about the pedagogy, it's not about the skills only, because the skills will keep on changing. So when we talk about 21st century teaching or even parenting, it's a combination of a skill set which you can learn today, but then about 2 years or 3 years time, the skill sets that will be required from you will greatly change, will
Mm-hmm.
greatly vary. So this is a kind of a lifelong learning journey on which you embark on once you have decided that you will be embracing the profession of being a teacher. So lifelong learning also comes with lifelong unlearning and relearning. So,
That's very true. Very true.
yes, so learning is, we still understand, okay, fine, I have to learn. I even have to learn when I'm 50 years old. I even have to learn when I'm 60 years old. Okay, fine, accepted. But then I have to unlearn. I have to unlearn all the old patterns, and then I have to relearn. Difficult for people. So that is what is very much required. Secondly, Lisa, I feel that all 21st century teachers need to be a combination of two things. One is that they have to have a beginner's mindset, a
Mm.
very humble kind of a mindset,
Mm-hmm.
which is ready to absorb and learn from everything and everywhere. That kind of a mindset they must have. At the same time, they also should have a questioning spirit. As to they must have that questioning spirit and challenging spirit, where they're not afraid and scared to question all the patterns and everything that is going on around us, which seems
Mm-hmm.
not to work anymore.
That's
So
true.
just because it has been going on for the last 3 4 decades, I have been taught in the same manner. I have to teach my sons in the same manner. My sons will be teaching their offsprings in the same manner. This has to be broken. I mean, this has to be questioned. So this questioning spirit should be there in each and every 21st century teacher. So a combination of a beginner's mindset, which learns and absorbs, and at the same time a questioning spirit which is not scared to question the unknown and to question the patterns which seem to have broken long back. So that is a kind of a combination that is required. And it is required all through your career, not only when you are starting your journey, but it's like all through your career. It's a continuous journey of self introspection, self reflection. And it's a continuous, challenging journey where you put yourself to task, where even if nobody else is telling you anything, you have to be very hard on yourself often,
Yeah.
because you know the best what you are doing, what you are delivering, what you are giving in that particular classroom.
When you were saying, well, that's, I agree wholeheartedly. And I'm thinking to myself, the unlearning is the biggest challenge. It's like sometimes the easiest thing to take in, and you're a sponge and you're learning things, but to unlearn things, which to me is the critical part of this, because you're when you're younger, especially a teacher. My son is actually a teacher, and I think about where he was when he first went in, and you're kind of green and you're trying to figure things out and you're kind of quiet, and he had to unlearn that you just can't sit around and not speak. You got to speak up, you got to ask questions. And as he's grown over the years, what you're saying is exactly how he becomes that better teacher, because you have to adjust and readjust. But I will say that the unlearning part is huge. And I would even venture to ask, like, do you have any tips on how we approach? Because I think this is a good one. Like, how do we approach unlearning something that has been a habit and within us for so long and wasn't wrong in the moment, but now it just doesn't work? And I know for older people, I'm going to speak for some of the older people, that unlearning something that we just know worked for so long, because that's what we tell our kids, right? We always say, oh, this is how it's always been done, but that doesn't mean that it's always now being done correctly. So do you have any like ideas on how we unlearn things? Because I know the older we get, the more difficult that becomes.
You know why it happens? It's because uh, we have been functioning in a particular way for so many years, and it has somehow served us.
Mm-hmm.
Because if not anything else, Lisa, all these kind of patterns which we have repeated in our lives, or seen others repeating them, they have served us because they have made us comfortable, right? So we have all been very, very comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
and very difficult to put ourselves in a kind of a situation which takes us out of our comfort zone and tells us that you have to be face to face with your raw self, and now you have to know what are the gaps. You have to actually address a lot of unhealed parts that are there within you, a lot of wounds which have not been cared for, and now you have to actually be face to face with that, and you need to
Mm-hmm.
address that. You need to bring that to the fore, you need to bring that into the open, because unless you are authentic, I always believe that even in parenting as well as in teaching, if you're not your authentic self,
Mm-hmm.
it's very, very difficult to forge any kind of relationships. Because if you are going around in your inauthenticity, then you will be attracting inauthentic relationships in your life. It can be a parent child relationship, it can be a husband wife relationship, it can be a relationship of friendship, it can be any kind of relationship. Because only an authentic person will attract authenticity. So,
Mm.
being authentic is very, very important. Being your real self is very, very important. Again, when I say being your real self, it means that dropping your ego, right? And we are so very attached with our ego because it has served us well for so many years,
Right.
right? So it has, it's a kind of one of our favorite masks that we have put on. And
So
people also have, like, commended us. for that kind of a mask, or we have been appreciated for putting on that mask. So that mask has served us well. So now if I have to put off that mask, and if I have to show my real self to the world, I'm scared. I'm
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, definitely, I'm scared. I'm insecure. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm very, very apprehensive. But we have to think about one very essential thing, that inauthenticity will bring in inauthenticity, and authenticity will attract authenticity. So, as parents, we need to be pretty much open to our children. And I don't believe in the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, just few days back, I was having this conversation with my husband. So, where I was telling him that I don't believe in the fact that we as mothers, we need to put on our best selves always in front of our children, so that they can see us as some positive role models by sacrificing our authenticity.
Mm.
Days when I am at my lowest, days when I am very, very vulnerable, you know so I want my kids to see that side of me. I don't want my kids to put me on a kind of a pedestal because I'm their mother. No, I never want that, because if I do that, that is the kind of an image that they will carry,
That's right.
about me for the rest of their lives, and they will never know the real person who was behind the mask of a mother. So, whether you're a parent or a teacher, you have to bring your authentic and real self out, I think, and that's a difficult task. That's great work, I think.
I absolutely agree. And I think that's the whole word, because I think that we give them a misconception that we can do anything and that nothing's supposed to hurt, nothing's supposed to be hard, because we make it all look easy and we're always smiling and happy. And I am of the same understanding that I think your children need to know that there are times when you are tired, you are exhausted, and those are the moments that you can teach them that there's a time to rest and there's a time to work. But if you're always working, 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 then they pick that up, and they never learn to rest. And I don't think it's intentional all the time, but I do think that at times we've seen our parents just go and keep moving and keep moving. And so we want to mimic that, especially if we're like, oh, okay, they got this, they did this, so I have to do it too. And then we never learn to sometimes just take a seat, and we don't feel so guilty about sitting still. I know for me, that was hard, to just stop moving. Even at times now, I'm struggling with, if you're sitting too still, I'm feeling like I'm not being productive, like something needs to be
Mm.
happening. And health wise, that's just really important, because we can't move 24 hours a day, all day. We do have to take a moment to just breathe. And I will say, in my later years, I've learned to just kind of be in the moment. Um, and embrace what's around me without thinking about what I have to do tomorrow or the next hour. Which is, I love, I have a grandson who's 6, and those moments when I just get to go watch a flag football game or taekwondo or whatever it is, I'm just in those moments. I don't think about anything else. I just want to take a picture, do something fun. And I think parents don't do enough of that. So I love that you said take off that mirror. I mean that mask, because we start to in certain, we start to believe the hype that we created for ourselves. We're just like, yes, this is who we are, and we know that. In 5 minutes, when we, walk away from the screen or whatever, we're just like, oh my gosh. So I love the authenticity that you speak of. And I do think that that's very important. Um, and to be very transparent, I think that a lot of people don't walk in that space. Um, we think we know. I talked about this in another show I did, actually yesterday, where we think we know, but sometimes we have no idea. And with that, I would like to kind of confession here, but when you think about it, when you don't show up in your authentic self, and then something happens with that mask on that you're wearing, and somebody reacts or treats you a certain way based on the mask, and then you're upset. It's like, can you really be upset because this is what you're presenting outwardly? So can't really get mad if you're not showing how you're really feeling in the moment or whatever it is. So I love that concept. I really do. And I love the fact that you said that people are very open to it, and receptive to that. It taps into, like you said, the healing of self-awareness, which is much more important. In order, before you step into somebody else's space, you have to kind of be okay with you, right? So to me,
Absolutely.
you were pulling out that mirror for people. You're like, okay, take a look.
Why they're open, I think, largely because uh, that actually resonates with them. I mean, that is something which is very true for most of us. And as you said, that when we sort of show our real selves and the kind of sometimes the kind of backlash that we receive, you know now those are the times, those are very important times, decisive times for us to help us decide whether we put on our masks again
Mm,
or we decide to let that go.
throw it away.
Because, yes, because more than the kind of validation that you're seeking outside, I
Mm,
think the most important validation will actually come from within. Because if you are not in tune with your real self, how can you even expect others to accept your reality or your authenticity? Because you are only not accepting your authenticity. You are only scared of your authenticity. So never expect that from the outside world. And at times when you continuously do this, you become very comfortable in your own skin, in your own reality, um, dropping your ego and dropping your mask, then you sort of, I think, you start believing in the fact that outside validation does not matter.
yes.
What you think about yourself, that is very, very important. Because Lisa, what I feel is that the demons are always there here. It's never outside.
That's
So
right.
we continuously fight battles within us. We think that the battles are always outside of us, but actually, the real and the terrific battles are actually within us. So it's those words that we keep on telling ourselves that nobody hears. You know,
Yes.
we keep on those self-talk, those negative self-talk that
Yes.
has become a pattern with most of us. We show the strong side outside, but we are battling a lot of insecurities inside, right?
So
So
true.
those are the kind of battles that we are fighting, and what we are achieving from those battles will actually determine our mental health, which is so very important to prioritize in today's world.
I so much agree with that. And you kind of, brought in and bridged what the power shut up is really all about. And a lot of times people think, when I first did back in 2019, when I talked about the power shut up, they thought I was giving permission to people to tell other people to shut up. I was like, that's not what I'm doing. I'm literally, it's a self thing. It really is about telling me when it's time to be quiet and listen, because the first the first thought you think about when you wake up in the morning, it's you. And we do have to be very careful on how we speak to ourselves, because it shows up. We think it's someone else who gave us that, but we're really internalizing certain things. Now, it may be something triggered it, but that's where the work comes in, where we have to retrain ourselves. Even if someone says something negative, that doesn't define who you are. And I think a lot of times other people's words, we allow those to, make us who we are. We become what others say instead of doing the inside work. So no matter what you say, I know who I am. So I love that you tapped into that, because it really is about how you speak to yourself, how you show
And
up
Lisa,
for
I would
yourself.
also like to add one thing here, that it's Uh, when somebody says something which we don't like, how we take that, that is
Mhm.
fine. But what are those things that I'm continuously telling myself, right? That is so important because each and every I am not talking about the level of words now. The words will come only out of what I am thinking,
Mhm.
right? Now, if I'm thinking something negative about myself, I'm self doubting myself. I'm in that kind of a zone where I'm continuously questioning myself. I am being very hard on myself. I'm always feeling guilty for everything that I have not been able to do. If that is something that is going on here,
Mhm.
so these are the thoughts that I'm having continuously. And each and every single thought that I have has the power and capacity to change the structure of my brain.
Absolutely.
So in the longest span of time, what is the damage that I'm causing to myself? What's the damage that I'm causing to my brain by
Yes.
thinking in that pattern, being in that zone for God knows how many years now?
Yes.
So that is the reason, Lisa, a little while back, I was just telling you and discussing with you the importance of raising consciousness.
Mhm.
So, consciousness and being aware is so very important and vital for each and every one of us. No matter whether we are in the teaching profession, whether we are in some other profession, whether we are not in any of the professions, we are just minding our own business, doesn't matter. But we have to be so very conscious
Yes.
about ourselves each and every moment. It's a practice. It's hard work. I understand. I admit. But it's a practice. It's a practice which is self rewarding
Mhm.
and which we have to embrace at some point in our lives. We have to. There are no other ways. And that also brings me to a kind of a thought which is related to education. Now, in any kind of educational system across nations,
Mhm.
you will see that what is being taught in all the levels, they heavily border on the outside world, right?
Hmm.
So your history will teach you about the historical facts, events outside. The geography will tell you about all the geographical places outside of you. Now, each and every discipline will teach you something which is outside of you. But what about what is inside of you? What is about your inner world? So we become expert in our knowledge of the external world. We get certificates, degrees. With that, we get jobs, right? We
Right.
get a livelihood. But our entire lifespan, we never get to know about the most important world because no education system has taught us that, and that
That's
is our
true.
inner world.
That's
How to
true.
navigate our inner world, how to be a master of our inner world, how to be, you know, the person who is in control of himself or herself, irrespective of whatever happens outside. And I'm not talking about not being vulnerable, not being at your weakest, not being at your lowest. I am just trying to say that to be the master of yourself, to
Mhm.
be in control of yourself, is to embrace everything that is happening to you and
Absolutely.
yet again rise and stand again. So, no education system is teaching us that.
That's true. That's very true. But I know here in this hour, that has been the education. And that's what we need before we go out into the schools and, to mentor and all those kind of things. It really is an inward situation. And I think I love the message because I think more often than not, we do start on the outside and then go in. And we're kind of approaching this totally backwards. So I love the concept of let's start inside, and then it actually is a much easier journey if you do it inside. But I think that that's the scariest part. Dealing with self is always so scary. I know that the more I've dealt with my inward self, um, it's not as scary anymore because that's how I operate. But until you learn that, like you said, we have to unlearn, because I didn't really think about it that way, but we do kind of work with the outside first, not understanding that that's what we're doing. So we just make sure everything is in place outside of us. And the reason why a lot of times people aren't happy, even if they have all of these outside things, is because they never did the work inside to find out if this is even what makes me happy. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I love the concept. I definitely want to have you to come back on and talk more about that, because I think even just talking about that kind of wakes people up. Like, maybe I'm not thinking about things in the right way. And this can only help us to grow even more. So that's the education right there. So I love that. But let everybody know how they can get in touch with you and stay connected with you. And I also wanted to know, you do have many publications and things. So share us a little bit about what you have out there that people can check out.
Sure. So, Lisa, I will be sharing with you the publication links which you can share with your viewers. So, there are a couple of books which I have authored on education, on mental health, on psychology, on women empowerment. So, I can share all the links with you. And yes, I'm a person who is very active on social media for all the positive reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody who is willing to be in touch with me can get in touch with me via Facebook or Insta or even LinkedIn. And so yes, so let's get connected, and let's you know continue with this wonderful conversation, uh, and let people be, you know I always believe this, Lisa, that through everything that we do, whether it's teaching, parenting, speaking in a podcast, speaking at a conference, whatever we do on a daily basis, if that impacts two people, three people, four people, and if that allows them to change the way they think about certain things in their lives, I think our purpose is met.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it is always an honor. Every time we've had a conversation, I learn more than I knew before, which is my whole purpose for what I do here. Is I want people to come here every hour of the week and just take something that they didn't know before. And I know people have kind of heard it, but when you break it down, it just kind of wakes you up. And it's a reminder. I think it's a constant reminder we should hear often that, okay, so have you dealt with the real you? Because like you said, I think we do it for so long that we kind of get a misunderstanding of who we are. So even when we present to other people, we're not comfortable because we haven't actually tapped into who we are. We're just using that mask, and it becomes, I think, what in the movie The Mask, it just kind of gets sucked in, and then we don't even know that we're wearing it half the time. But your body tells you, you know what I'm saying? I think that once we become more in tune to ourselves, we'll know when we're wearing that mask. We just kind of get used to it. And I love the fact that you talked about being comfortable, because I do think part of growing and learning is becoming uncomfortable.
Mm.
And I just want to say for the record that I know this is not a popular concept at times, but being uncomfortable is actually okay. Um, and I think that that's a weird thing for people to grasp, but it's actually okay to be a little uncomfortable, because that means that there's something happening. And I'm just saying, go with it. So thank you so much for your yes. I appreciate you. I definitely want you to come back. So I will definitely be in touch. But I see you out there on social media. You're doing some wonderful things. So thank you for all the work that you're doing. And anytime we have an opportunity to bridge the gap, internationally, globally, especially in the area of education. I share with you that I retired as of March 31st of this year. 30 years at Department of Education, the federal department, but I'm still in the game. Like I said, I have a son who's a teacher. He came out of Eastern Shore as a kinesiology major, and he's a physical education teacher. But education is so different now. So it's not just the physical that he's doing in class. They're actually having to teach, these students. And I love
Mm.
young people in education. for the very reasons that you talked about. That's why I love to see young teachers come up and they have all of that energy. I know when my children were in school, I love their young teachers because they always had these great ideas on how to get them engaged, because we can't just keep doing the same old thing. You know, what motivated me as a child is not going to motivate these children of today. So you got to make those shifts and turns. So thank you for all the work that you're doing to train up some of these young teachers that are, teaching our future. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Power Shut Up podcast. I truly appreciate you. We have had an amazing year so far for season 3, and I'm looking forward to more. Next week, we have someone who is a breast cancer survivor 2 times. She's actually a friend of mine that went to Spelman College with me. And she's definitely the epitome of someone who never gave up. Just quitting was just never an option for her. So we're going to hear her testimony, and I'm excited. So let's stay connected. And I'm following you on social media. Please, you all stay connected with her on Facebook and all social media platforms. And until next week, I did want to let you all know that I appreciate your continued support with the podcast. And if you have any ideas on what you want to talk about, please let me know. We are welcoming anything that will empower, inspire, and enlighten others. So until next time, have a wonderful week. Dr. Shauli, just hold on real quick. We'll talk behind the scenes, but have a great week, and we'll see you next time.